Before we get to the Gemara on Vav Mad Aleph on 6a, I wanted to share with you that I found the Gemara I was looking for a couple of days ago. I told you I was scouring through the Rambam. I was trying to find a specific mention of a certain law with regard to a Sotah woman whose husband dies before she drinks the water. And I mentioned that from memory, the law is that the husband himself has to be the one to bring her to drink the water. And I couldn't find where it was. And right, because someone had asked me why it doesn't roll over to the brother-in-law. If the relationship between the original husband rolls over to the brother-in-law, then the same way she could drink the Sotah waters while she was married to the first husband, why can't she drink the Sotah waters when she's married to the second husband? That's what someone had asked. And I had said that in my mind, in my memory somewhere, I remember reading this law that the husband who warns her has to be the one to bring her to the kohen. So I was looking for it, I couldn't find it, and I did find it. And that is right over here. This is going to come up later in the Gemara. This is 21, what is it? 24, I'm sorry, A. It's a Mishnah. And the Gemara mentioned the dispute between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. But either way, they agree that if the husband dies, she doesn't drink the water. And the reason is, and this is what I was looking for, because we must maintain the verse which reads, the husband brings his wife. That's what the verse says. That's what I was looking for. The verse says the husband brings his wife to the kohen, to the temple, for her to drink the water. So he has to be present to bring her, which is why after his death, she cannot drink the water anymore. Anyways, I just wanted to share that because this is what I was looking for a couple of days ago. Okay, so now we get back to our Gemara on Vav Aleph, which is 6a.
Can I just interrupt for a second?
Go ahead.
At the conclusion of the last Mishnah,
yeah,
was it concluded that the Kal V'chomer was upheld?
The Kal V'chomer was upheld. Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Just wanted to tie it back, everything together.
Yeah, the Kal V'chomer was upheld, and the fact that the Abaye introduced a different Kal V'chomer, the Gemara rejected that because the two relationships weren't an equal equation.
Weren't parallel enough to
make a proper Kal V'chomer. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so before we go to the Gemara, let's review the Mishnah we learned yesterday, and then we'll get to the Gemara. So the Gemara is talking about a woman who's married to a kohen, and under ordinary circumstances, she would be allowed to eat the truma because she's a member of his household. But once she is now forbidden to be with him, then she can no longer eat the truma because she's no longer a proper member of his household. And the Mishnah lists a number of such cases. The elu asuris b'melechel. This is where I'm highlighted here. And the following are wives that are forbidden to eat the truma, melechel truma, that are forbidden to eat the truma if they were married to a kohen, because of the circumstances that she's no longer a proper member of his household. So scenario number one, if she admits to infidelity, then she can no longer eat truma because she can no longer live with him. Tmeani lach, I'm forbidden. I've been unfaithful and therefore I'm forbidden to you. Number one. Number two, shabo edim shitmeya. If witnesses arrived and say that she was unfaithful, then again she cannot eat the truma. That's case number two. Case number three, vaymeres eini shoisa. If she refuses to drink the water, so she was warned, she's secluded, she's now a Sotah, we don't know if she was faithful or not, and now she's supposed to drink the water, but she refuses to do so. So she can do that, but they go through a divorce and she relinquishes the money of the ksuba. But at that moment, if she refuses to drink the water, so then she cannot eat the truma anymore because she's maintaining this position where she cannot be intimate with her husband. Likewise, if the husband decides he doesn't want her to drink anymore, he takes it back. So again, they go through. Again, these are going to be discussed in the Gemara, but again, they go through the divorce because they're not drinking the water, and we don't know what happened behind closed doors. But for the same reason, the fact that they are forbidden to each other is being maintained, and therefore she cannot eat truma. And lastly, the shabayla bala b'derech. If after she became a Sotah, before she drank the water, the husband and the wife are now intimate, they weren't supposed to be. They violated the law, and they were intimate. So at this point, she can no longer drink the water, because the water can only be drunk, as Rashi points out. The Gemoro is going to learn this later. If the Sotah water only works if they both follow the laws properly, and in this case they did not, because after she was secluded, after she became a Sotah, they were intimate, and therefore she cannot eat the truma. Okay.
In addition to not being allowed to eat the truma, what other consequences arise as a result of them having intimacy in respect to the laws of Sotah? Is it nullified at that point, or is there other consequential situation there?
I think they have to separate. I'm not sure. Good question. I'm not sure. I'm gonna leave that. I'm not sure.
Okay, maybe it'll come up.
It will.
Later.
It actually says that it's going to come up later on page 28, which means in quite a while.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that chapter, which begins in page 24, which we just read, that chapter discusses most of these laws.
Oh, it comes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't remember. I'm going to leave it as is. I don't remember. Okay. The Gemara now discusses scenario number 2. Scenario number 1, where she's not eating truma, is if she admits to infidelity. And scenario number 2 is if witnesses come and testify to her infidelity. Now the Gemara is going to discuss at what point did these witnesses arrive to say that she's unfaithful. When did this happen? Before warning, after warning, before seclusion, after seclusion, before she drinks the water of the Sotah, after she drinks the water of the Sotah. When do these witnesses arrive to tell us she was unfaithful? So says the Gemara as follows. Amar Rav Amram. Rav Amram says, Hamilsa, the following teaching that I'm about to tell you, Amar Lon, Rav Sheshes, was taught to us by Rav Sheshes, that Va'ahanerle Lon, Anyan Mimaslisan. And he backed it up, he proved his point from this Mishnah. Okay, so Rav Amram is about to tell us a teaching from Rav Sheshes, and the teaching of Rav Sheshes is supported by the Mishnah we just learned. What's the law that Rav Sheshes teaches? Quote, a Sotah woman, sheyeshla eidim medinas hayam, if there are witnesses somewhere on the other side of the world. Medinas hayam means countries across the ocean, literally. So there are witnesses to what happened behind closed doors. They saw that she was intimate there, but they're on the other side of the world. So we, the Bezdin, don't know about them. So we consider her an actual Sotah. But in reality, she isn't an actual Sotah. In reality, there are witnesses who know that she was intimate, that she was unfaithful. We just don't know about that. And therefore, we're treating her like a Sotah. And therefore, we are taking her to the temple, to the Beit HaMikdash, to drink the water. Even though in theory, she shouldn't be drinking the water. Because in theory, these witnesses would come and say she was unfaithful, and that would be the end of that. But we don't know about it. Now, the question is, does the water work? Will the water do its job? Considering that we don't know about it, and therefore the waters will work to inform us about it. Or because there are people in the world somewhere that know about what happened, then the Sotah waters don't work. And as it were, God's relying on these witnesses to tell us what happened.
So in other words, I'm trying to understand.
Mm-hmm.
There are people, we call them witnesses. They have information that she was unfaithful, but they haven't actually given testimony. Is that okay?
Because they're on the other side of the world. The event could have happened a year ago, and they're gone. They took a boat to Australia. We don't know where they are, or we don't even know that they exist. Right? But the truth, the objective truth, is that there are people in this universe who know what happened. So says Rav Sheshes, Ein hamayim boikinoisa. The waters don't work. The waters will not test her. The waters usually clarify for us what happened, because either she's blessed or she's punished. If she was faithful, she's blessed. If she was unfaithful, she's punished. And that's done by the fact that she drank the water. The water does that to her. But that only works, says Arsheshus, if nobody in the world knows what happened behind closed doors except for her and him. But if there are witnesses, even if they didn't come forth to the Bezdin, but there are witnesses somewhere on the other side of the world who know what happened behind closed doors, then the Sotah Waters doesn't work. And the Sotah Water does nothing. So my timer, what's the reason? Says Arsheshus, the Amarkra, because the verse reads, in describing the law of the Sotah, the Nistra, and she was secluded. This is a quote from the verse. The He Nitma, the Eid Ainba. The verse says she was behind closed doors, she was unfaithful, but we have no witnesses. So the Torah says it only works if there are no witnesses. The lake of the Yadaba. It only works, says Arsheshus, if nobody knows about what happened behind closed doors. La Fukeha, and therefore this excludes our case, the Ha'ika the Yadaba, where there are people who know about what happened behind closed doors. It just happens to be that they're not here, and therefore they haven't given testimony, but there are people in the world who know about what happened behind closed doors, and therefore the law of the Sotah Waters don't work. This was Arsheshus' teaching.
Well, we had learned something similar earlier, that if it's found out that she actually had intimacy, the Sotah is called off, right? And she must be divorced.
Yes. So this we did. That's right. So this verse was quoted earlier to tell us that even if one witness comes forth, then the law of the Sotah is called off. But now he's teaching us another detail, that even though the law of the Sotah is not called off, we still go through with the drinking of the water. We're being taught that the waters don't work because somewhere out there in the ether, there are two people who know about it, even though we don't know about it. So we're going through with the law of the Sotah because we have no idea. But the waters won't work objectively because there is somebody who knows. There is someone else besides for the two of them that know what happened behind closed doors.
It's the same outcome. It's just by different reasons.
Well, not really, because in the first case where we find out, we don't even give her the water to drink because we have a witness that says they were intimate, and therefore we don't even give her the drink.
Oh, here they are
We
giving
give her the drink. It just doesn't work.
Well, I guess that's what I meant by the same outcome, meaning like
in terms of she remains.
It's the drinking has no effect.
Yes, either because we don't do it, because we have a witness that says she was intimate, and if we don't give her the drink. Whereas in this case, we give her the drink because we don't know about anything. But somebody out there in the world knows about it, and therefore the water has no effect on her, even though she drinks it. This is the teaching of Rav Sheshis. So continues Rav Amram, who's quoting Rav Sheshis. V'anar lan einan, and he proved his point. Literally, he opened our eyes. He proved our point. He proved his point. We must nishan from our Mishnah. Where does our Mishnah teach us this law? Our Mishnah just talks about who doesn't eat truma. So where does our Mishnah prove the point as to whether the Sotah Waters work when there's a witness out there in the world? So explains Rav Amram, Tekatani, because in our Mishnah we just learned that one of the cases, case number 2, of a woman who does not eat truma, is shabola edim shehit meya. If witnesses arrive to tell us she was unfaithful, then she cannot eat truma. That was the law in our Mishnah. Okay, so now we get to our question that I mentioned before. To us to edim emas. When did these witnesses arrive? When did these witnesses arrive to tell us she was unfaithful? Inema, if you're going to suggest mikame de tishti, witnesses came forth and said she was unfaithful before she drank the water of the Sotah. So then, zainahi, she's an ordinary unfaithful woman, making her unfit for truma. There's no unique teaching in the Mishnah if that were the case. In other words, if she was warned not to be with this guy, and she secluded herself, so the guy comes to Bezdin and says, "My wife secluded herself," and against the warning, and then 2 witnesses arrive and say, "Well, actually, behind closed doors, she was unfaithful." So obviously, she cannot eat a truma. This is just as bad as the woman herself saying, "I was unfaithful." And if sorry.
Sorry, she's not a Sotah candidate, right? She's
No,
just
it's not the candidate, exactly. She's just
just a plain infidel
exactly.
and get divorced.
Exactly. She's a regular, old, plain old, unfaithful woman. And there's no uniqueness to this law here, especially since one of the first case was a woman herself says I was unfaithful. So she says he's unfaithful is the same thing as witnesses coming saying she's unfaithful. So why would the Mishnah add another clause, a new case? You know when a woman doesn't eat truma, if witnesses come and say she's unfaithful, obviously. So what's the uniqueness of this case? Ella, rather, there must be something unique here, which is labasa deshasi, after she drank the water. So she was a bona fide Sotah. She got warned. She secluded herself. We have no idea what happened. She drank the water. And now 2 weeks, a day, 2 days, 100 days, whatever it is, sometime after she drinks the water, two witnesses arrive and say, remember you guys gave her water to drink? Well, I know what happened behind closed doors. She was unfaithful. And now we're stuck in a conundrum.
So after she drinks the water, but before the waters have a chance to do their thing, I guess.
The question. If the waters work, even when there are witnesses, so let's go through this. She's a Sotah. She's drinking water. At the moment she's drinking water in Israel, there are witnesses here in Canada that know she was intimate. Do the waters work on her? This gets back to the law of Rav Sheshes. If the waters work, then we can ignore the witnesses and wait to see if the water works. If the water works, we know the witnesses were saying the truth. If the waters don't work, then we know the witnesses were lying. If she's blessed, we know the witnesses are lying. If she's cursed, we know the witnesses were saying the truth. And the witnesses are irrelevant because she drank the water and the water is going to test her.
But I thought that if there were witnesses, the Sotah doesn't work. That's Rav Sheshes' point. So that doesn't work either.
And there's the proof. That's the proof. Because the water doesn't work, because there are witnesses out there in Canada, right? So then these witnesses have validity. Because if the waters worked, then the witnesses we don't need. Either it worked or it didn't work. We know the witnesses are lying or saying the truth. But because the waters aren't working, because there are witnesses out there, right? Therefore, we have to, once the witnesses come, now we can say, oh, she was intimate. Let's see how the Gemara says it. So, I amris, if you say bishlema, it would make sense if you said ein amayim boikinaisa. If you're of the opinion, like Rav Sheshes, that because there are witnesses out there that know about what happened, therefore the waters don't work, Shapir, then it makes sense that once she drinks the water and nothing is happening, right? So because nothing is happening, we assume she was faithful.
Right.
Right? But the truth is, the reason why nothing was happening is because there were witnesses out there.
Right.
And now that the witnesses came forth, she's determined to be unfaithful and she can't eat the truma. But if the waters work, despite the fact that there are witnesses, to gali milslam afreya, then as soon as if nothing happens to her, then it will be revealed the sadi shakanin, that these guys were liars. Because look, she's not dying. And if the witnesses are saying the truth that when she's unfaithful, she should die. Clear? So from the fact that these witnesses arriving after the Sotah, after she drinks the waters, are valid is proof that their being there in the world stopped the waters from working. Because if the waters worked, then these waters will either reveal that they're liars or reveal that they're not liars. Either way, the witnesses aren't relevant. And from the fact that the Mishnah implies that even after she drinks the water, the witnesses arriving and telling us of her infidelity is valuable, is because the water isn't working now. And until the witnesses arrive, we assume the reason why nothing is happening to her is because she was faithful. And now when the witnesses arrive, we find out the reason why nothing was happening to her is because waters don't work when there are witnesses.
That proves Rav Sheshes' point.
Exactly. Clear? Okay, if it's not clear, please let me know and we'll try to clarify. Okay, so now let's go even further. The Gemara is going to go even further now in more detail. So this is what Amram said in the name of Rav Sheshet.
But I just had to.
Yeah.
If these would have to be genuine witnesses, though.
Yeah.
If someone knows these laws very well and can contrive some phony witnesses, it wouldn't matter, though. The waters then presumably would work, and
Yes. Oh, that's correct.
right?
Yes, they have
I
to go
mean,
that's right. In other words, if these guys, that's exactly right. So but in that case, see, there's the point. In that case, if they were liars, right, then these water would work, and she would either die or live, right?
yeah, it wouldn't contradict
Exactly.
the witness.
Exactly. The point is, the fact that she isn't dying is not indication that she was faithful.
Right.
It could be she was unfaithful, but there were witnesses out there who knew about it, and therefore it's not working. And therefore, when these witnesses come, they add value to our story, because they inform us that the reason why the water didn't do anything to her is because she was faithful, is because there was witnesses, not because she was faithful. But if the waters work, even if there are witnesses against Rav Sheshes, if we were to disregard Rav Shesh's ruling, and we were to say that the water works even if there are witnesses, then the witnesses are of no value here, because either the water will kill her or the water won't kill her. And from the fact that the Mishnah says these witnesses are what make her stop eating truma, that means witnesses that arrive after her drinking water have validity. So what's the validity of these witnesses? The validity is they inform us that the reason why the waters weren't working is not because she was faithful, but because there are witnesses. And here are the witnesses saying that she was unfaithful. And this is exactly in line with Rav Shesh's view. Clear?
And what happens to the witnesses if they were lying?
We have to, at one point we have to trust that the Beis Din is doing their due diligence to investigate the witnesses, right? That's part of the Beis Din's job, is to investigate and cross-examine the witnesses and try to find holes in their story. But at some point we have to trust the witnesses, because otherwise what do we have to go on in general? Anytime there's a court case and witnesses come forth to tell us an event, after a certain amount of investigation, we just rely on the fact that these guys are saying the truth.
Yeah, there's a proximate causation, I guess. It can't be too far attenuated or so unlikely that you would consider it, I guess.
Yeah, we have to, in other words, this is the foundation of all, legal rulings, that we have to, we do our due diligence, and at one point we just have to trust our information. Right? So after doing due diligence with two witnesses and cross-examining them in separate rooms, and they come with the same story and so on and so forth, then we have to safely assume that they're saying the truth. And if they weren't, we have to assume that our investigation would reveal that, or the cross-examination would reveal that, and so on. Okay, maybe we'll stop over here, because the next piece of Gemoro is going to twist this a little bit further and might require some more time. So we're going to stop over here, and the Mitzvah Shem, God willing, on Monday, we're going to recap this last point and go into the next level. Within this very point, we're going to take it even to a next level.
Wow, thank you.
Have a wonderful day and a good Shabbos, everybody.
Okay,
Super.
good Shabbos.
Same to you.
Okay.
Take care, Alan. Enjoy the
Okay.
weather.
You too.
Good Shabbos. Bye.
Shabbos.
Shabbos.